Hi, folks. Welcome back to Never on the Backfoot podcast. I know I've just missed saying this for such a long period of time, and I couldn't imagine, again, discussing the entire IPL auctions with anyone besides Rishabh. The moment he pinged me, we realized, we had to sit and discuss not just all things RCB. I mean, I know his jersey and like whatever his attire is right now is, exuding RCB, but then he's obviously here to lend his expertise to all teams that will be participating in this IPL. I know it's been a while since the auction got done, but then clearly the fever is not lost on us, right? There were a lot of surprise retentions, big money purchases. We were just discussing off record of how so many uncapped players. We didn't really think they would go for such big money, but then that's just the nature and the beast of an IPL auction, right? So we will be discussing and probably debating all of those through the course of this discussion. Welcome, Rishabh. Really happy to have you here again. And as I've been saying, the IPL auction is done and dusted. But just looking right at the retentions, the way teams have gone about with their purchasing patterns, and even for some teams, it was a sort of a pressing that reset button and rebuilding their squad, right? So before we start breaking it down team wise, like which franchise did you think had a very clear strategy going in and kind of sort of executed their plans as per expectation?
I think one is KKR. They had the big money. They knew whom they wanted to get, and their targets were very clear. They got Cam Green, they got Pathirana, they got Mustafizur. I think we'll talk about them. Really good buys, and I think Mumbai Indians. They didn't have a lot to do, anyways, coming into the auction. Very sorted with their retentions. The core was set. Similar with RCB, they didn't have a lot to do at the auction. And I also feel Delhi Capitals was one team that had a good auction, and they've got most bases covered. They've added to some things that they were lacking the previous season, especially in the batting. But if you look on paper, even actually LSG, we can say have had a decent auction because they've added a lot to their pace unit, a lot of pacers in the roster, but their only issue will be fitness. If all of them can stay fit, then that's a very good bowling attack. That's the only concern. But yeah, on paper, I think they also did a quite decent job to strengthen their bowling. So quite a few teams actually have come in with good planning, and they've mostly gotten whom they wanted, or the balance or the combination they wanted. So, and that's mostly what you even expect in a mini auction, right? You don't have a lot of options, so you've got to be cut clear about who you want and who are your backups if you can't get those who you want, because again it's the whole demand supply in a mini auction. So also luck you need your way. But yeah, very interesting auction overall. Some overseas big buys who were on the expected lines, no surprises there, but like it, a lot of money spent by franchises on uncapped Indian players, which is very good to see in the IPL. So yeah, quite interesting that way.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree with you. I think this was one of those auctions where, I think we just glued on to see the kind of purchases that teams were largely making. And it really made for a fun auction as well. You could really see the scouts had put in the hard yards, and the kind of
Yeah.
purchases really made sense in that regard. Let's probably start off with Chennai Super Kings itself, right? CSK, I mean, making some very bold retention and release calls, right, before the auction. So before, again, we start breaking it down further, like how do you just assess their overall squad balance, especially after releasing some big names, bringing in, that mix of youngsters, experienced players, and the biggest coup, right, in Sanju Samson. I think we just can't get over that. Seeing him in yellow is going to be quite an interesting prospect, right?
No, I think the Sanju Samson trade was a very good move. Obviously, there are pros and cons. You've lost two good all-rounders in Jadeja and Sam Curran there. But then they also really needed that strength in the batting, with they got a lot of youngsters in as replacements the last season itself. So that transition had kind of started towards the end of the 25 season itself. But I think they needed someone like Samson at the top. You have Gaikwad and Matre and all of them, but you need some experience, and also someone who can keep, also someone who can join that leadership group now that Jadeja's not there. So you need someone who can guide those youngsters. Let's say Dhoni doesn't play a few games, or he plays just a few games and he takes a backseat. That could be a possibility. We could see that happening this season as well. So then having the presence of Samson in such a scenario, I think That was a really good move, and I think Chapok will also suit him because he plays spin really well. He has that attacking game up the order. So that first, I think, was a very good trade, very good acquisition right before the auction of Samson. But yeah, Jadeja's release was slightly shocking. Sam Curran, you can say okay, but just given that emotional connect and how many years he's served them, no one saw the Jadeja release or trade, whatever, coming in that way. But yeah, franchises do move on, the league moves on, so that's how it is. But yeah, they've invested heavily on uncapped players and youth. Like I told, it started from the last season itself, which is a good move. That's a good shift because CSK always had this strategy of going with the experienced old guys, and it necessarily did not work for them in the last 2-3 seasons. So they didn't need that shift, but I'm just a little concerned if they've overdone the bringing in the youth or these uncapped players, because I do see some lack of experience or balance in that squad, which we will talk about.
No, I think all fair points you bring in there, Rishabh, because just, delving deeper into the aspect of the uncapped talents, you have the likes of Karthik Sharma and Prashant Veer, right, who have been invested in heavily, each going for 14.2 crores, which is money probably, a lot of us wouldn't even dream of looking at, right, when you think of a player of this nature. But what did you make of these picks? Because our comment section is already, sharing their comments. Hari Prasad goes on to add that their hot pursuit for someone like a Karthik Sharma did not make a lot of sense because you already have wicket keepers like Sanju. Before the auction, Urvil Patel was there last season. You have MS Dhoni, man. So what was that rationale for these two picks?
Yeah, this is the exact point we were discussing off air just before it started. I told you they already have Sanju Samson. He's most likely to keep. You have Dhoni anyways there. You have Urvil who did well last season. He's done well in domestic as well. So you already have three keepers in your squad, and two of them would probably be in that 11. So I don't see where Karthik Sharma will fit in. And if you're paying 14 crores to someone, you would expect them to play all games and deliver, but if he's sitting on the bench, that doesn't portray a good picture, I feel. Yes, you do say it's a long term investment or we are investing on youth and all of that, but at least you'd want him to start right away if you're putting that amount of money. Somewhere it could also bring in that thought within the player's mind that they have given me 14 crores, so they have put the faith in me, right? But then when the season starts, he doesn't fit in the combination and he has to sit out. There will be that uncertainty, right? That if I was that good enough and they've paid me a lot of money, why am I not starting in the 11? You don't know what that can do with the players, especially an uncapped player who's had a good record in domestic and he's just coming in now. It's a big franchise, big league. So yeah, the Karthik Sharma bid. I mean, if they would have gotten him for a lesser price, then you can fairly justify that we want to have him in the squad. Want him to look at how things go, how the franchise works, and all of that. You're building him for the future. But if you're paying 14 CR, you expect the player. You'd want them to start right away and even deliver right away. That price tag pressure is going to be there. And then if you bench him, he does not play. There will be a question on the price tag as well. It's going to go both ways. So that Prashant Veer, I feel, will have an edge ahead of Karthik. Could start in the 11 because you don't have Jadeja, you don't have Sam Curran. You need some all rounders there, and he's also a hard hitter. So I feel he is more likely to start than Karthik Sharma. But again, same with Prashant Veer. That again, see, domestic cricket and IPL, we all know, is a different ball game altogether. I'm not discounting the fact that they've done well. That's where you come from, obviously. But then that pressure, given the price tag, such a big price tag, the pressure is going to be there. Eyes are going to be there on you. People are going to talk a lot more about you, and there will be a lot more judgment because obviously it's big money, and there are a lot of people who don't even know who Prashant Veer is. So a lot of them are excited to see who's this guy, what are his skills, why have they paid him a lot, is this guy actually worth or not, and such things like that. So all that pressure is going to be there. But again, keeping everything aside, in a way it's really good that franchises splurging big amounts on Indian uncapped players, that sets a good example as well. I think going forward, that if you perform well consistently in domestic cricket, you are going to get rewarded, and that is really important for players to have it in their mind that domestic performances will be rewarded. That is key. So that is something that has happened. That's good. That has happened not just with CSK, but a lot of teams going after uncapped talent. But yeah, with the balance of the team, I'm not quite sure how at least Karthik Sharma would fit in that 11.
Yeah, and here I think at the risk of sounding very obvious, I'm going to say that it will be interesting to see, right, if these were like long term, very smart investments or were they risky gambles? Because Tushar clearly goes on to say that not sure about the long term investment part, as there will be a mega auction again in a couple of years. So would the performances be that great that it would warrant CSK to sort of retain the duo? But either case, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that they get the right kind of opportunities to actually sort of make a mark in that regard. But again, Rishabh, let's take a few comments. Utsav goes on to say that CSK is giving a very 2010s, RR vibe. If MS doesn't keep it, kind of defeats the whole purpose of MS just being there. As an RCB fan, I worry more about MS behind the stumps rather than the batter who bats very deep, right? Kind of begs me to ask the question that is this the last of MS Dhoni we are seeing? Will he continue in the role of a mentor, someone who's coming into bat at 7, 8? And is this the CSK philosophy we're going to see play out for another couple of years, maybe?
Yeah, I think it should be his last, and as I told you before as well, we could probably see MS stepping away halfway through the season as well, or not playing all the games, because again you do have two, three young wicket keepers who are all at this point in time better batters. Obviously, undoubtedly, we saw last season Dhoni coming in so late, but he's not had that finishing touch that he had in his prime. And if he's playing that late down the order and the contribution is not quite coming, then it spoils the whole combination of the side, and doesn't fit in, to be honest. And if he doesn't keep as well on top of that, with Samson already being there, then I don't think there is any sense of him, sorry to say, but being in the 11, because what role are you going to bring, really? Probably he will continue as mentor of CSK because CSK is Dhoni. The face value is there, and also the experience. A lot of youngsters coming in there, so I don't think CSK would immediately want him to retire as well. Even if he doesn't play a lot of games this season, they'll still want him in the dugout as a player, because you want to groom the side, you want to groom those youngsters and pass it on before you actually move out, because they are going through a transition, CSK, so to say. So they would want that experience to be there at least for a season or two. But I'm not sure how many games would he actually, be a part of in the 11.
Yeah, that's true. And let's see, how the season plays out, because a lot of CSK fans who are watching this might, just come and attack us like, hey, how could you say this about MS? He's probably going to be there for the entire season and a couple more years. But, there are a lot of practical considerations which have to be taken into account, about his age itself, how much he can continue to play at the highest level. And if it means, taking the opportunity from another youngster who could have potentially
Exactly.
benefited. But these are questions, the CSK management can probably answer better. Hari Prasad also goes on to add that also they've replaced a death overs bowler like Patirana with a power play bowler in Henry. He believes there's too much reliance on Ellis coming into this season, Rishabh. Do you agree with him that CSK probably has?
100
Yeah.
100%. When you asked me about the balance of the squad, I was going to come to this because you've released Patirana. Uh, okay, he wasn't as effective the last season with the economy and all of that. He was a lot wavered, but he still has that skill set. Bowls those Yorkers very well under pressure, and he was your designated death bowler. So I was surprised they didn't go back for him, but you also did not get, an exact replacement. You have Khalil Ahmed, you have Matt Henry. All of these guys are power play bowlers who do well when there's some movement, some assistant, when the ball's doing both ways. They do really well. And Matt Henry, even at Chepauk, I feel, because he's someone who gets a good bounce, gets a lot of pace. So I don't know if the wicket is slow there, how effective he's actually going to be, even with the power play. That's a different thing. But yeah, and there's going to be a lot of dependence really on Nathan Ellis, because I don't see any other option that you have for a death bowler, really, because see, you have Gurjapneet Singh, you have Khalil Ahmed, you have Mukesh Chaudhary, Anshul Kamboj, but all of these guys are really not death bowlers. Again, lack of experience in the bowling lineup, definitely something that CSK, it might be a huge concern, for them. So they've got to really figure out who's going to bowl for them at the death. That is a certain question mark, because all of these guys, Matt Henry, uh, and you've got Khalil Ahmed, all of these guys are primarily guys who bowl well at the top in the first six in the power play. So yes, a lot of over reliance definitely on Nathan Ellis, and the pressure could really get to him because he's also not that established in his career. Yes, he's done well. He's really done well for Australia in a recent past. But again, IPL is a really different game. You generally see overseas pacers, apart from real, some big names like Bolt and all of these guys. Pacers do find it hard, overseas pacers in the IPL, usually. And when there's pressure of that death bowling on you, and you're not so used to, or you're not a designated death bowler, I think that is certainly an issue CSK will have to address. And they've got to figure out, there's got to be a lot of role clarity there, and they've got to figure out their pace bowling. Spin, good cover. They've got Noor Ahmed, who did well last year as well. They've got Shreyas Gopal there, benched the whole season last time, but with Ashwin and Jadeja both going out, I would really love that if CSK can utilize Shreyas Gopal well. He also gives you, batting. He's a very handy batter down the order, so he'll give you that balance as well. Leg spinner, wrist spinner. I would really like to see, CSK utilizing Shreyas Gopal well this season. Also has a lot of experience of domestic cricket. He's been doing well, so that is one thing I would like to see, how well they manage the resources they have with their bowling.
Yeah, because I think just elaborating a little bit on the Patirana point itself, I think Utsav goes on to add that Patirana was a collateral damage of CSK's all-time worst season. The batting was the actual problem. Patirana did pick wickets, but at an economy of 10, but one below average season, and he was sort of shown the door, which is unfortunate. And again, how auction dynamics play and how the team, sort of values a certain player. We also have sports fan who goes on to ask us that similar point you spoke about, Rishabh, about giving hefty amounts to unproven talent and the kind of psychological pressure it brings in on them. Sports fan, once again, really happy to see you here. Just scroll back a little in our conversation. Rishabh did speak elaborately about this, and although he goes on to mention that Indian players getting this amount is definitely good signs, but the kind of pressure and toll it puts on them is something which has to be sort of taken into account. And he also says that it brings a lot of pressure to a youngster all of a sudden. There's definitely the downside when you look at the auctions perspective. And with Samir Rizvi, right, is a prime example of that. Arshan Kulkarni, a lot of these players like getting so much money, and then you don't know what sort of happens to them. Yeah, I think we'll just take one more point for CSK before we move on. Darshan goes on to say that CSK's biggest issue of 2025 was not the players. The 2018 winning team was objectively for like far worse, but rather the tactics, right? The poor player usage and frequent chopping and changing was something that led to their downfall. Yeah, Rishabh, I think again, through our discussion, we have taken into cognizance the strengths and the weaknesses. But one last aspect, like with this revamped squad, right? Objectively, where do you see CSK end up, right? I know we have spoken like about some things that CSK could have done better, but either case, like, what's your prediction for them?
I feel they're really sorted as far as their batting goes. Like I mentioned, Sanju Samson coming in really adds that firepower there. They've got Shivam Dubey, Deval Brevis, all of these guys in the middle who did well last season. Guard will come back this time. He was injured the last season, so he also adds. So I think the top 5, 6, 6, 7 is really sorted. Batting is not an issue, but like I mentioned, it's really going to be about how they use the resources that they have in their bowling. Spin, yes, they are sorted, but fast bowling is really a slight concern. So they'll have to see how they use their resources well there. And it's a new team, relatively new team. So we'll also have to see how all of them, gel in, and how well they get along together. What are the roles? There's got to be a lot of clarity there, because do you want Sanju Samson to open? Do you want him in the middle? Who are going to be our finishers? A lot of things for them to see. Um, I think this team will have to be given some time. For some reason, I don't see them making it to the top four at least the next season. But a lot of potential there, definitely. So will be exciting to see how they use all of their resources, I'd say.
Yeah, fair points there, Rishabh. And I think we'll probably save the predicted lineup question for a little later, once we've sort of put all the squads in
Yeah.
perspective. But yeah, let's talk about the team that's next in the alphabetical order, and that's Delhi Capitals, right? Again, I went in with no specific order, just, alphabetical. So that's why, Delhi Capitals is next in our list. Again, when you just look at their auction strategy, they already had retained a strong core, and it felt like, they sort of addressed their pace and batting depth at large. So how satisfied were you, with the kind of auction that they had and just the way the squad has shaped up?
Yeah, I think DC had a fairly good auction. I think Ben Duckett was a real steal that they got in. Firstly, because they struggled a bit with their opening combination last season. JFM and Faf didn't work, and after quite some games, they got KL in, and then he did well, but it had become a little late by then. Faf's gone now, so you don't have an opener with KL. So I think Ben Duckett and KL also gives you that left-right combination will suit really well. They also got in Prithvi Shaw, which I'm very happy for, because he's been doing, keeping everything aside that's happening, he's been doing well domestic cricket for the last year. He has performed himself, so I think he deserved that opportunity. And if he can also get going, you have a good option, tried and tested option at the top. He's played for them before as well. He's done well. He understands their setup as well. So couple of good buys there in the batting, I feel. And I also feel the Nitish Rana trade before the auction was something really a really good move, because with the Karun Nair in the middle, Akshar Patel didn't click with the bat. They struggled a bit in the middle order, really, the last season. So I think Nitish Rana really gives that stability that they needed in the middle. Solid Indian batting option as well. So that another good move, I feel. And they also got in Akib Nabi, which I feel again another good acquisition, another domestic player, uncapped player. He's done well. He's done well with the ball. He can give you batting as well. So that was another good buy. But again, depends to be seen if he starts in the 11 or not. I'm not sure about Natarajan's fitness. So got to see whether he starts there or not. They've got in Lungi Engidi and Kyle Jamieson. They needed someone to partner Stark there. And I feel Engidi will start over Jamieson if they're gonna play two overseas pacers. We saw in the few games that he did play for RCB last season. He did well. He got you those wickets under pressure, and he's also got the experience. He's been around for a while, so I think that was a good buy as well. They needed some more more options as far as that pace attack was concerned. Their spin's always been great. Akshar, Kuldeep, Vipraj. Uh, all of them have been like, Kuldeep has been in good form. Akshar has been doing well. They've got the experience, so they're pretty much covered. I think they've pretty much covered all their bases. Pathum Nisanka, another good buy, I feel. So they have a lot of options. They have quite a few backups for whom they would want to open, at the top alongside KL. So that's good there. And if you have attacking guys like, Prithvi Shaw, Ben Duckett, all of these guys, that also takes some pressure off KL at the top. Or you can also move around, you want KL to bat in the middle. You have a lot of flexibility now with the options that you've got in. You can afford to, play around with that batting order depending on how things go. So yeah, and I feel overall they've done a decent job. Delhi, they've tried to cover a lot of their bases, and I feel they've pretty much done a decent job there. David Miller, another name that I actually forgot. I think they really needed that experience and power at the back end. Needed that finisher along with Ashutosh Sharma. So that was a steal again. I feel David Miller. We've seen in the recent India series as well, a couple of games he did do well, and he's always got that experience. When players like this click, they can take games away by themselves. We know that. So I feel they've gotten a lot of good buys for each slot. They've filled the holes. They've done well to fill the holes at the top, in the middle, in the bowling as well. So relatively quite balanced and quite a decent job done by DC.
Yeah, I think they really had some, wise purchases, right? And I think there was also one question, yeah, in the live chat where Hari Prasad goes on to ask us that there's no secret that KL is a player who sort of, takes time to settle in. There's, the speculation that he might open the next season. So again, Rishabh, according to you, did it make sense for Delhi to go after Pathum Nisanka? They almost, bid up to like 4 crore and they finally ended up acquiring him. So sort of made sense for you there.
So see, they already do have Ben Duckett. They've got in Prithvi Shaw as well. So they do have, like I told you, some guys who can play that attacking cricket at the top if KL even does take some time. So I don't think Nisanka is going to start right away in the 11. I think the most ideal opening for them would be either KL and Prithvi or KL and Duckett. So that shouldn't be a lot of issue, I guess. I think Pathum Nisanka is just I feel at least he's just going to be a backup option, backup opener, really at the top. So not a lot to worry there. I feel.
And even at large, Rishabh, when you look at this Delhi Capital squad, right? Like, are you getting any inclinations of potential match winners or X factors?
I think Nitish Rana in the middle can be one. He's done well. Even today in the VHT for Delhi, he scored 70 odd something. He's done well. Gives you a bit of, he can give you 2 3 overs of spin as well. At Delhi, that's always going to be handy. So, good utility all round player, I'd say. So that he can be one guy, and I'd also like to see a resurgence of David Miller and Prithvi Shaw if he does get that opportunity. So they do have these 2 3 players who can really do well and could be their potential match winners through the season.
Yeah, because Delhi's batting, I think that was something which everyone was raving about, right? Right from experts to fans, all shows were pretty much talking about if Delhi gets that batting order right, things could really work out well for them. And even Rishabh, we've again, spoken about Delhi at large. Like when you just look at this whole combination, right, of experience, new talent, some very wise purchases at the auction. Again, realistically, where do you see Delhi reach this season?
I think Delhi have a strong potential to make it to the top four. Even the last season, they were doing well, and then all of a sudden they just derailed and they lost momentum. So they have a much better squad than they had last time. Definitely, they filled those gaps. They have a lot more balance, I think. So if they can repeat what they did, what worked well for them the last season, and work on what did not go well, definitely DC have a chance to make it to the top four, 100%.
Yeah, I think Delhi Capitals is another team that would really want to script history, right? Having been at the receiving end of a lot of results that clearly haven't gone their way to actually lay their hands on the elusive IPL trophy, like a certain RCB, I think would be their aim, and hopefully, this is the season that they can sort of do that. But let's move on to Mumbai Indians. Now, again, when you just look at MI, they sort of went into the auction with a very small purse, right? Very unlike Mumbai, but they're kind of on expected lines because they'd sort of built their squad so beautifully last time around. But things again went south for different reasons. How would you evaluate, Mumbai's squad balance now with some of the purchases that they eventually ended up going for?
As I told before, I think Mumbai, one of those very sorted and settled teams going into the auction, they didn't have a lot to do. And because they'd retained a large core of theirs already at the auction, a fantastic Indian core, they have good overseas names as well. And I feel the purchase of Quinton de Kock, brilliant steal, brilliant steal because he and Rohit Sharma at the top are a proven opening pair. The 2 seasons, 19 and 20, that Mumbai won. QDK scored 500 plus runs in both those seasons. So they already have that camaraderie with him and Rohit. They have that understanding. They've been successful for them in the past before in title winning seasons, most importantly. So I think that is the combination they will go with this time around. So getting him back, I think the biggest steal. A really good buy that I feel for Mumbai, but not a lot apart from that. Yeah, they got in Shardul Thakur as well before they traded him in, so a good all-round option there, I feel. And a local boy knows the conditions well, so that can be a good add-on as well. Not a lot to talk also about Mumbai, and yeah, fantastic bid for Green. They started it.
Yeah, it was just very interesting that they'd actually want to, build for Cam Green. And I think this was a question the broadcaster also, sort of picked Akash Ambani's brain that,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
would you want to go
It was
after
a sort
Cam
of
Green?
a tribute or a homage that he's always going to be in our thoughts. I'm like, okay, cool, nice.
Yeah, right. The whole MI family, and we care about our players. But again, just delving deeper, right, into MI, I think Darshan again brings in a very valid point. He feels that Jax, Rickleton, and Quinton de Kock all in the side is a tad wasteful, right? Jax is not really a middle order batter. Otherwise, MI look very solid. You have Sherfin, Rutherford, and Mike Markande, who were excellently traded too. Again, Rishabh, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, slightly spoiled for choices there because Rickleton did well, not bad last season. He's also done well. But then if you want to bring in QDK, you've got to drop him. And Will Jacks is not a middle order batter. You either open with him or you make him play at three in the top three. So I don't know where he would fit there in the top three because then you have Tilak, you have Sky, you have all of these guys already there. So that is going to be something that they'll have to see. If either of them doesn't do well, they can bring someone in. So it's good that they have those options. But I think Scherf and Rutherford, very good trade again. So you have someone with Hardik Pandya down the order that takes a bit of pressure off him as well. Two good, solid finishing options. Both of them play together. Both of them get going. It's going to be a nightmare for opposition bowlers. 100%. Mike Markande again, they needed a leg spinner there. They needed that wrist spin option. So that is also a good buy. Am I very sorted? They knew the things they wanted. A lot of it sorted before the auction with the retentions and the trades itself. So I think they've done really well there. I'd like to see Gazanfar though, but I don't know if I think I hope that he should start as their spinner, but always having that Indian option gives you more flexibility in Markande. So good buy there as well.
Yeah, and I think just talking about the whole Quinton de Kock aspect as well, right? Hari Prasad goes on to say that he's very surprised that no one tried to increase the price for QDK, right? Just for the sake of it. Not that it would have mattered, but would have been interesting to see what other options that Mumbai would have again gone for. Again, Rishabh, were you surprised that teams were not really keen for QDK as much as we would have sort of expected it?
Yeah, a little surprising because a lot of teams did need wicket-keeper batters and wicket-keeper batters who are openers. Quite a few teams who needed keeper batters and opening options. So little surprising that no one went for him. And he also did well in the India series. There's often recency bias if the player hasn't done well, no matter it's a big name, you don't go for him. Fine, but he's done well in those few games in India. So and he's got the experience, obviously proven player, proven opener, proven keeper. All of that is there. So yeah, a little surprising that no one actually went for him and they got him at just 1 CR. Absolute steal. Absolute steal.
Definitely. I think it has to be one of the biggest deals, after the purchase of, I think, David Miller and Ben Duckett by Delhi Capitals early on. But Rishabh, also when you look at Mumbai Indians, it's pretty much a playing 11 that picks itself, right? There's no two ways of looking at that. And even when you look at their last season, ending up fourth in the table and then, just losing out in the knockouts was something that was, again, beyond their control. But realistically, right, just the kind of squad that they've built and with the new acquisitions as well, and Mumbai is known to be that hub, which really nurtures in new talent and all of that. I mean, again, do you think Mumbai can sort of replicate last season heroics and eventually again go all the way?
Definitely, they have their team balance. We'll almost see a pretty similar 11, just two, three changes here and there if they do bring QDK in. Looks like he will because they're the only team who wanted him. Like to see how Shardul will fit in there, but I think slightly they'll also depend and want Deepak Chahar to be fit because you want that second Indian pacer alongside Bumrah. You don't want all the pressure. Of course, you do have Bumrah and Bolt there, but you need someone if who can bowl a few overs in the power play. Then you can save Bumrah for those middle overs and the death. So you become all the more effective that way. So I think a little bit will depend on Chahar's form and fitness. That's in the bowling, but apart from that, pretty well rounded, pretty well balanced. And I definitely see Mumbai is going to be one of those teams who will be surprising if they do not make it to the top four.
Yeah, Mumbai is one team you clearly wouldn't want to write off, right? Because again, they come in with that champion DNA, and again, the squad isn't looking very different from the one they sort of built in the auction previously. So with some smart purchases this time around, you would sort of reckon that they will come good, come this season as well. Which brings me to another team. That's the Kolkata Knight Riders. Again, they entered the auction with I think the largest purse money, and so many slots to fill as well. Again, Rishabh, when you look at how they've sort of rebuilt, right, for this 2026 season, do the purchases make sense to you? Are you able to put it in perspective?
Yeah, I feel KKR have made quite a few good boys. We all knew they were going to go after Cameron Green because you wanted Russell's replacement there. But will be interesting to see where they play Green because he can't bat as low as Russell in the order. Definitely not. You've got to play Green at the top three, four maybe. Can also look to open with him. I don't know. They have that option. But yeah, I feel two very good buys, Matisha Patirana one and Mustafizur Rahman, because they have good bowlers at the top. You have Harshit Rana, Vaibhav Arora, all of these guys will do well in the power play, but needed some strength and experience in the death bowling. So they've got two very good options in Patirana and Mustafizur there. Both of them bring experience and good skill sets. So I think that is a major boost for KKR this season. Apart from that, they've made good use, really, I feel, of their purse. You've got good names like Tim Seifert, Finn Allen. Again, depends to see where all of these guys will fit in and will they play or not. But they've got good names in the squad. They've got those good power hitters there in the squad. They've got Rachin Ravindra, another option who can bat at the top. They've got back Rahul Tripathi, adding some strength to their Indian batting there. Already had a good core, so I think they've also they did not have a lot to do. KKR had some gaps to fill that they have, especially in their fast bowling. Two good overseas buys there. So if they can get their combination right, I feel KKR also definitely one of the contenders to make it to the top four.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I, for one, really like their purchase of someone like a Kartik Tyagi, Matisha Patirana, right? And even Mustafizur Rahman and Utsav, pretty much took the question from my mind itself. Like he goes on to ask us, do you think KKR will be tempted to play both Fizz and Patirana as they both have splurged a lot of cash on them, right? That would mean that Narayan and Green might open, or Rahane and Angrish Raghuvanshi or Tejasvi Yadav might, Tejasvi Dahiya might keep for them. So how do you see this play out for them, Rishabh?
I think they will be tempted. They will certainly be tempted to play both of them because if both of them are fit and both of them are at their best, then you have one of the best death bowling attacks. One of the best bowling attacks, I would say, overall with Varun, Narayan, Fizz, and Patirana. All four, if all of them click, just imagine that's going to be a very tough bowling lineup to bat against. So, yeah, I certainly feel they'll be tempted to play both of them. Then you play Narayan as your spinner. You do have Varun, anyways. And yeah, you can have Green and you can have Green and Rahane open, or you can have Green and Ankrish open. Rahane comes in at three. Maybe Rahane has also been doing well, by the way, in domestic cricket. Even in T20s, he's been doing well. He played well last year as well for them. So they've also got some options to play around there. But if they can figure out and if they can get both these guys to play with Narayan and Chakravarti, lethal bowling lineup, 100%.
Yeah, I think we're already raving about KKR and the kind of bowling lineup that they have. But I think here, Rishabh, just to take a quick moment to look at the captaincy aspect itself, right? Do you still think they're going to carry on with Ajinkya Rahane as captain? Have there been, some chatter around that? Or do you think there might be other options they would sort of be interested in looking, right? Because a lot of big purchases, you have Cam Green in the mix as well. Again, Ajinkya Rahane for the win as captain for them?
I think there shouldn't be much discussion there at all. I think Rahane straightforward will continue to be their captain because I don't think they have a lot of other options there. then either you bring in a Manish Pandey and you play him because you want him to, you want a leader, proven leader, but I don't think he's going to come in. So I think Rahane, he's been doing well also in domestic cricket. He's still been leading. So definitely Rahane is going to captain. I don't think Cam Green. Don't think they would want to pressure him with captaincy because he's already got the price tag pressure there. That too as an overseas all-rounder. So there's already enough pressure on him. Don't want to burden him with captaincy, I feel. So I don't think there's any two ways here. Rahane is going to continue to lead KKR.
Fair point there. And Darshan also goes on to say that he's a bit surprised that KKR let Venkatesh Iyer go so cheaply, right? I get if they don't want him, but they could have easily afforded to take the price to 10 CR at least. I think the whole last time experiment of, going all out, like, some 23 crores that they eventually spent it on him didn't really work out well. But Rishabh, agree with this sentiment that KKR not going after Venki was a tad surprising?
Yeah, I think a lot of us did expect that they would go back to Venki at probably a cheaper or a lesser price than 23 because that definitely did not work, and I don't think he was worth that big an amount. But a little surprising that they did not go back for him because the season they won in 24, he played a very big role for them with the bat. So it's not like he hadn't proven himself, but I feel they would have. The main reason to release him was to get that money, get that purse, so that they could get someone like Green, Fizz, Patirana, all of these guys to fill other roles because they do have good options with their Indian batting already. You have Rahane, you have Ankrish, you have Rinku Singh, you have all of these guys, Ramandeep Singh, you have all of these guys in your Indian batting uh, who already have that potential and can do well if all of them click. So probably it did not fit in there, I guess, and they needed players for other roles, really. So kind of makes sense to put that money somewhere else than to try and get him back. But they could have. I also feel they knew that there would be other teams who would look for an Indian all-rounder and a left-hand batter. Probably they did not want to risk getting into a bidding war again, even though they had a lot of money. Because had he gone for a higher price again, and then unfortunately or fortunately you had to get him, maybe it could have dented the purse that they already have, and they couldn't have openly gone for other players like they did. So I think that works that way as well.
And also looking at this aspect, Rishabh, like KKR, sort of going for certain purchases. I think I agree with Hari Prasad here. He goes on to say that honestly, this whole Narayan opening experiment has to stop. It was clear last year that it wasn't working anymore. Finn Allen and Tim Seifert are brilliant acquisitions. One of them should definitely start. Agree with this sentiment here?
I feel definitely like, yeah. See, we know that Narayan can, the day he gets going, it's brilliant. But you can't expect consistency from someone like Narayan, and you want that when you have someone who's opening, and with Rahane there at the top, who's not as dangerous and explosive right away, although he does bat at a good strike rate. But he's not that, six hitting or a dangerous guy at the top. If you have someone like Finn Allen and Seifert who are proven commodities in this format, definitely you would want one of them to start. It's a talent. I mean, RCB did that. They benched Finn Allen for such a long time. They did not play him. Waste of talent. So I hope KKR don't do that, but they'll have to figure out their four then. You've got to play Narayan 100%. You're playing Cam Green definitely, either of Patirana or Fizz or both of them. So then, if you want someone like Allen or Seifert to come in, you play one of Fizz or Patirana, whoever. But that's a good problem to have, I'd say, because you have those gun players. That's a good problem to have, but they'll have to figure out who are the four they want to play.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's definitely a good problem to have for KKR. And again, just very much looking forward to seeing how that playing 11 shapes up. And one last bit, Rishabh, before we move on to our next team under focus, are there any potential game changers or X factors that you think will really shine for KKR? Again, this is besides the obvious, any players you're particularly looking forward to seeing?
Probably Patirana, I feel. because he'll have that hunger in him to prove himself. Because he was with CSK at a big price, 18 CR something, and he really did well the season they won as well. And one poor or average decent season, whatever, and they've released him. They didn't even go back for him in the auction. So he's coming to a new team, and he could probably be their gun death bowler or overseas bowler, because they don't have much options there. So that there's going to be responsibility on him as well. So if he can come good, I feel he can really be that X factor with the ball that KKR need. They do have the two best spinners, but if they can also get someone to deliver consistently in their pace attack at the death, then it'll be a really well-rounded bowling unit. Because then you have two of your best spinners. You have Harshit and Vaibhav at the top, who can do well in those power play overs, and then you have a solid death bowling as well. Very well-rounded if all of them can come well together.
Yeah, that would be the absolute dream stuff for KKR if that works out. Because Utsav also goes on to suggest that, promoting Rinku and Ramandeep a couple of notches higher, and they will, literally carry KKR to the playoffs with this sort of a bowling attack. Last season was far from ideal for them, right? They ended up, what, eighth on the table. And at some point, it felt like they were in contention, but, just couldn't quite get combinations right. This time around, I think they will look to undo a lot of that damage. And with this firepower, they definitely look like a team, that can make it to the playoffs. Which brings me to another team that I think, I was really excited to discuss, which is Punjab Kings, right? When I still think of last season, it's crazy, right? The kind of magical season that they had, the run to, the finals was just something very commendable, ending up as table toppers. So no surprises there. Punjab did retain a large chunk of their last season's core, including the key bowlers and batters. But this time around, Rishabh, with the kind of purchases that they've made, like how balanced and settled is that unit looking?
I think they also have a lot of their core retained. They have a good Indian core there. Arshdeep, Chahal, Priyansh, Prab Simran, all of these guys. They back a lot of their local players. They've done well at the auction, but I still feel there are some areas which they could have addressed better. For example, I think they could have looked for a backup for Chahal, first of all, because see, he did have a good season last year, but then there were a few games at the start where he wasn't as at his best, really, and he's not even playing international cricket anymore. So could be a little rusty coming in and then get into momentum, which happened last season. And they do have Praveen Dubey, but I don't think that's a strong enough backup for Chahal. So that is one. And I even think with their fast bowling, with their overseas fast bowling, they could have done slightly better. You have Xavier Bartlett there, you've got Ben Dwarshes and all of these guys, but I don't know how well would they actually perform in the IPL, because you've seen all of these guys come in with a lot of pace. They do well in the BBL and all of that, but they're not that successful in the IPL. I think they could have done a lot better with their overseas fast bowlers there. But otherwise, Cooper Connolly, I feel one really exciting talent that they've gotten him. We've got to look where and how they'll fit him in that batting order. So yeah, that was one really good buy, I feel. They've also got Vishal Nishal, the UP fast bowler. Good to have another Indian fast bowling option. You do have Vaishak Vijay Kumar there, but it's always good if you have more cover for along with Arshdeep there. So that was a good buy. Largely the same 11, I feel, but my only issue is with their spin backup and the fast overseas fast bowling.
Yeah, because again, Rishabh, you brought in a lot of interesting points, where we can segue to separate conversations itself. But the one aspect that was a big, like the biggest talking point from a Punjab Kings perspective was the Aussie flavor, right? In some of the acquisitions, be it Ben Dwarshes or even Cooper Conley, they went, for 3 crores and 4.4 crores. You could clearly see, right, where the mindset was coming from. But before I delve into that, I think Hari Prasad goes on to say it's an unpopular opinion, but I don't think they will miss Inglis a lot. They've replaced him well
Yeah,
with Cooper Conley, gives you a few overs with the ball as well. And then I think, I'm not sure if this was reports or something that actually happened, but 45 minutes before the auction, Josh
yeah,
Inglis
yeah,
tells
yeah.
them that he's not going to be available for the rest of the season. That's why they decided to go ahead in a different direction. Then man gets swooped up by LSG. The rest is history, as they say. But agree with him, Cooper Conley definitely feels like an upgrade there.
Yeah, 100%. And with Cooper Connolly, they also have Mitchell Owen, another good option there. So they have two good options who can, replace English in that middle. So they've done well to cover for him. So, like Hari said, they shouldn't miss him a lot really. They've got good cover, and they've got both of them from the same country. So, not an issue there, I feel.
Yeah, and Utsav also goes on to say that I have a bad feeling about Punjab this season. Last year, their youngsters were brilliant, but expecting it over and over again is risky business, right? They haven't added much to the squad, and in fact, they've lost Josh Inglis as well. I think that there is a fair point, right? It's difficult for teams to replicate their past season heroics and everything. But PPKs this time around, do you think, Rishabh, they can come up and produce something really different?
If they can replicate what they did last season, definitely they can. But like I told you before, I'll agree to this point that they could have probably gotten a better backup for Chahal. Overseas fast bowling is slightly concerning for me, so they haven't added much to the squad. They could have done a lot better, I feel, in terms of these two aspects. But yeah, I mean, they've got to rely more on their batting, I feel, to carry them, and you'll need a lot of consistency from Arshdeep and Chahal to carry that bowling lineup because I don't know how reliable that overseas bowling is going to be there. Azmatullah, Omar Zai, Dwarshes is there. You've got Lockie Ferguson, okay. Marco Jansen, I feel, will also have more responsibility now. Because he's done well in India, so expectations will be more. You'll and he will have to deliver because I don't see any other reliable overseas bowling option there. So Marco Jansen. But if all of them can click and replicate what they did last season, they do have the firepower to go all the way. There's no doubt about the potential of the team.
Yeah, that's true. And our comments box also, goes on to add that, Darshan goes on to say, I wish PBKs had gone for a better overseas quick. Ben Dwash's numbers haven't been that great with the ball. I think he means particularly like in the IPL or on Indian soil. And Lockie Ferguson is someone who's quite notorious for injuries, so that pace attack looking slightly shaky in that regard. Sports fan goes on to add that only thing PBKs needs is a fit and firing captain to be back again. Rest looks fine. Here, Rishabh, I quickly want to just ask you about Shreyas Iyer itself, right? The man brings in so much value to that setup. Unfortunate that he's missing a great chunk of a lot of
Uh,
India matches because of that injury. So it's probably going to be a little bit of race against time to be fit and firing for PBKs. But again, just the kind of value he brings to that setup, you're excited to see how he goes.
Definitely, I think Punjab will be praying for Shreyas Iyer to be fit by the time the season starts, because I think he's the key to that batting. You have all of these guys, Priyansh, Prabh Simran, all of these guys who go big, who can score and get to the opposition. Shreyas Iyer also can, but you need someone that glue who can hold the batting all together, and that is Iyer for them. He did it last season as well, and he did it consistently last season. So we saw how that went. And a proven captain in the IPL, you take DC, take KKR, his very first year with PBK's new team, new setup, and taking them to the final. That's not easy. That's something really commendable. So I think Shreyas 100% will continue to hold a lot of key and importance for PBKs. So his presence will be really crucial for them, and his form as well, along with his presence. That's going to be very crucial for them.
And also, Rishabh, with regard to how form can be very fluctuating, and cricket by itself is such a volatile sport in itself. I mean, PBKs does have the continuity streak in them. There have been a few smart picks, but would it be fair to say PBKs are, sort of dark horses coming into this season? And somewhere, fans will be praying that they go all the way, but then would be a lot to expect.
I think they can go all the way, slightly more than dark horses only, I'll say, because they did well last season also. They have a large chunk of those guys who were there last season when they did well. So if all of them can click well, and whatever resources they do have in terms of their overseas pacers, if they can get going, if they can figure out a way somehow, then I definitely feel PBKs can have the potential to go all the way.
Yeah, again, fingers crossed, and let's see how PBK sort of fares. We have another question here again from Utsav. He goes on to add, do you think there are a lot of youngsters around Shreyas at the top? You have the likes of Prab Simran Singh, you have Priyan Sharia, Nehal Vadera. I feel this was primarily the reason that they couldn't stand against RCB in their first qualifier. Again, Rishabh, a valid point and probably an area that they would look to work on with experience.
Yeah, that is actually a very interesting point because all of them did well last season. All of them scored well. They were quite pretty consistent. They have the potential, but there will be a lot of pressure on youngsters to replicate what they did last season again, especially when you don't have that experienced name at the top. That's where Shreyas again will become a lot more crucial because he bats at three. Prabhsiman, Priyan Chopin, Shreyas at three, Nehal at four. So he's got the all of these guys will be batting around him. He's got to be there constantly to also give them support in the middle, even when they're batting. So that's where again his role will be really important. But yeah, there will be pressure and expectations from all of these youngsters to replicate what they did last season. So that will be something interesting to see if they can do that. Probably we can argue that they could have gone for some experienced name at the top, but then the thing is, why would you want to spoil something that worked well for you last season? And all of them did well. They'll be confident coming in this time. So I don't see why they would have wanted to disrupt that top four, top five that did well for them. So fair enough that way. But again, each of them in their role will be really important, and they've got to be consistent and replicate what they did last season.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it would, again, Punjab would be hoping against hope that they can pull off something that they did last time around. I mean, going to the finals is no mean feat, and the way that they did with the kind of resources they had was quite commendable in that regard. But let's talk about the team that did, do the unthinkable last season. A team that Rishabh absolutely loves, is wearing with pride on his chest, which is the Royal Challengers Bengaluru, right? RCB. I think again, taking into cognizance all of the things that happened last time around with the stampede and everything, I think a lot of us fans have had time to, reconsider and contemplate, what we feel towards the franchise. But again, just trying to keep it a very cricket-centered discussion. Yeah, like taking that into cognizance, like RCB has retained their core players, used their purse very sparingly, right? I think this has been a trend or pattern that we've seen from like the past seasons as well. So Rishabh, over to you. Like, how do you assess the squad after the retention? A lot of people felt the Venki Iyer purchase at 7 CR was probably like a little iffy there, but all in all, happy with how the squad's shaped up.
Yeah, I think quite a decent squad. Like you told, they've maintained majority of the core from the last season. That's done well. So that's a good shift to see from RCB as well. No chopping and changing really there. That's been a real big difference. But I feel you can debate either ways on the Venki Iyer pick, because if he's there, he's got to play at three. But then DDP did well at three last season, and he's had a phenomenal year in domestic cricket this season. You take the Syed Mushtaq Ali, you take the Maharaja Trophy. Even here in the Vijay Hazare, it smashed 100 today. He's done really well this entire year, so it'll be unfair if you drop him from that number three slot. So then I don't know where Venki Iyer fits in that lineup. So that's one thing they'll have to figure. But a good backup to have. It's a good thing if you have a 7 CR purchase as your backup. So that shows that you have a good squad. Then yeah, exactly. The pressure to play him isn't that bad. So 7 CR, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's good to have someone at that value as a backup as well. That shows how strong your squad already is, I feel. If anything, I only feel they could have probably gone for someone like a Mayankmar, a Karan Sharma, or they could have gotten one more experienced leg spinner. I feel Krunal and Suyash did do well last season, but it's going to be a lot to expect them to replicate that. We don't know if they can really replicate the same thing this season again, because Suyash is also very young. He's still coming up the ranks. So I think they could have looked for a backup there, I think, for a wrist spinner. But apart from that, they've done well. Not a lot to do. They've used their budget sparingly well. Jacob Duffy, I think, a very nice replacement they've gotten in case uh, you need a replacement for Hazelwood. We're not sure about his fitness, so you have Nuwan Tusara already who's there. On top of that, you have replacements for replacements. That's something they've done really well, I feel. So goodbye, Jacob Duffy there. Mangesh Yadav, I feel another interesting name that they've gotten as a replacement for Yash Dayal. If at all he doesn't play, again some uncertainty there, and he can also give you batting. He can tonk. His 200 odd strike rate he has. So I think Mangesh Yadav is also a good buy. I don't know if he see if Dayal is if he's available to play. I definitely feel he's going to start, but a lot will depend on the training camps. How he's doing, because he hasn't played since the IPL at all. So is his rhythm there? Is his form there? A lot is going to depend on those pre-season camp. If they feel he's good enough for how he's doing, but if he can't start for some reason, decent backup there with. Mangesh Yadav, I feel, who also offers you a lot with the bat. So that only adds. But yeah, the only problem I have with, I think they could have gone for a better wrist spin backup for Suyash, or a spin backup in general. You do have Swapnil Singh and all of them there, but it's tough to expect Krunal and Suyash to replicate what they did last season. I feel a little more fine tuning there would have been good, but otherwise, decent squad. They didn't have a lot to do. They've added Jacob Duffy, Venkatesh Iyer. All of these guys have added more strength to the squad. So they've done a good job overall.
Yeah, that's true. And we have a lot of observations coming in our comment section as well. Sportsfan goes on to say that a lot of Madhya Pradesh League recruits were there. No surprise. We know where the captain comes from, Rajat Patidar. We definitely see you and the kind of influence that you've had in the purchases. Sachit, a friend of the podcast, goes on to add that Devdutt Padikkal, greater than Venki. For me, DK was valid when he said that they won't just drop him like that. He said they'll decide on their performance at the camp, of course. And Darshan also goes on to say that both DK and Andy Flower have gone on to mention that Devdutt Padikkal is definitely going to be a starter too. I think there was one more comment in the same regard. Yeah, both Andy and DK have mentioned that they aren't, sort of looking away from DDP on form basis. I think Rishabh also mentioned this point that DDP was soaring really
Yeah,
high
yeah, yeah.
today in, the Vijay Hazare Trophy as well. We saw him perform really well in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. So, Rishabh, for you, it's a clear-cut choice that DDP makes the cut at number 3 and Venki Iyer slots in that middle order somewhere.
100% DDB's got to start at 3, because we also saw a shift in his game that he made last season. Strike rate was often a concern with DDP in at number 3, but he worked on his game last season. You saw a lot better intent and attacking intent from him, and you need exactly that kind of player at number 3. Also, he's a left-hander, and RCB do lack the left-hand options. So and most importantly, for the shift that he made, the way he performed last season, and even though he played just 10 games, massive role in us making the final. And the form that he's been in throughout the year consistently, it's not easy to perform well in every tournament consistently throughout the year. He's done that, like I told before, beat SMAT, beat the Maharaja Trophy. Even he started the VHT really well. He's batting with that attacking and aggressive intent. So for all right reasons, I feel 100% it will be unfair if DDP doesn't start, to be fair. So interesting to see where they'll slot in, or how they'll slot in Venkaiah there, because I think Rajat has been making him bowl for Madhya Pradesh a bit, so they'll be looking at that option as well. But for starters, I feel it has to be DDP over Venki, 100%. I don't think there should be a doubt there.
Yeah, I mean, the inclusion of Venkatesh Iyer is again just a shot in the arm, and using him optimally is something the management will probably consider once the camp is done. Hari Prasad, like us, a fan of RCB, goes on to say the fanaticism aspect aside, they've really nailed this auction, right? They got Duffy and Jordan Cox at an absolute steal price. Really thought Duffy would go for a lot more, but I think teams wanted to sort of wait or so. Again, Rishabh, what did you make of these purchases? We'll talk about the Indian players acquired a little later, but just these overseas picks.
Yeah, like I told you, we needed a replacement for Hazelwood. We don't know if he's going to be fit enough, if he's going to play the entire season or not. So I think Jacob Duffy was a real steal there, and surprising that a lot of teams didn't bid more. But yeah, maybe they also wanted to wait. Jordan Cox, I think they let Livingston go, so a good replacement as an overseas option there. You already have Jacob Bethel, so you've got replacements for the replacements that you already have. So that's something they've done really well to cover basis, I feel. And these two really, value buys, I'd say Duffy and Jordan Cox, really value buys. And they've looked to pick for the slots that they know where they will need replacements if something goes wrong, or if players uh, are not fit through the season or whatever. So they've picked wisely for the spots that they know according to role and spot who they need where. They've picked very wisely. So very good buys in that sense.
Yeah, mindful purchases for sure. Because even Sachit goes on to say that the Yash Dayal controversy that's happening, you still, Bhuvi and Hoff also have the whole fitness issues and woes over the years. It's great to have options like Rasikdar, there you have Mangesh Yadav and Duffy as backups. And I think about the spin aspect too, he goes on to say they have Satvik Deswal as a wrist spin backup option, so that's definitely good to go. Hari Prasad also says that RCB finally trusting their returns after having let them go, like Akash Madwal to
Ah,
other teams. Happy that they finally went with Satvik
correct.
Deswal, and hopefully he gets opportunities too. And I think just for the uninitiated, for those who don't know Mangesh Yadav, he was the player of the tournament for in the MP T20 team. He's a clutch
MPT20.
batter, can bowl, can nail yorkers, slower variations and bounces. Plus, he is okay closer to Rajat as well. Probably that played a role in his acquisition. And I think the bigger question that's probably running in all fans' minds, and we've kind of seen reports and a lot of news about this, is will Chinnaswamy be the venue
It
this
will
time
be.
around for the season, right? In all fairness, that's clear, right? And
That's clear. Yeah.
yeah, and Hari Prasad also goes on to ask us that Surya Sharma would really need to have a stellar season in 2026. Not saying he's
Yeah,
been bad, but would love to see him reduce that economy rate, pick wickets more consistently. I think RCB was using him largely as an impact player last season. He did,
correct.
produce some magical moments, made his impact and everything. But Rishabh, agree with this sentiment. Surya Sharma will have to have a good season.
Definitely, I think he did have his moments last season, but he'll have to get more consistent in terms of picking wickets. He'll have to get more consistent in terms of his economy. 100% agree with that, because if he's had one good season, you definitely expect an upgrade in the next season. And knowing that there is no other lead wrist spinner in the team, the entire responsibility is on him. So he's also got to up his game to live up to that responsibility. Has the potential. He's done well, but it will be interesting to see what more he can offer and how he can upgrade from here, which will really be crucial, because we have good pace bowling. You have the backups and all of that. Batting's phenomenal, but you will need your spinner, especially your wrist spinner, to come good, because there'll also be a lot of pressure on Krunal. Otherwise, he picked a lot of wickets last season, but again, you don't know if he'll be able to replicate that or not, because teams will be better prepared this time. Even for Suyash, teams will be a lot more better prepared this time. They'll do more homework, obviously. So I think he will have to work on his game, to bag more wickets. and be more consistent. Yeah, he will have to, but he has the potential, and I'm hoping he does come good.
Yeah, fingers crossed Suya Sharma comes good because too good of a player to, sort of be bombing the bench and not get those right kind of opportunities. But Rishabh, again, when you look at RCB, like, are there any potential game changers or X factors that you're looking forward to? My mind just has one name. If I say Virat Kohli, people in the chat will be like, yeah, that's such a predictable name that you're sort of taking there. But again, do you have like a pick which is not as obvious as mine, maybe?
I think a lot of obvious names from everyone who did well last season, but I'd like to see how Jacob Bethel will come through this time, because with Livingston gone, there's a good chance that he might be in the 11 there, because he also offers you some spin. So I think Jacob Bethel will have an important role to play. He showed his potential in that game against Chennai with the bat. So you're expecting him to come good really there as a utility player with Livingston not there. So could probably be a game changer, has that potential. So in with Livingston gone, it'll be interesting to see how Bethel comes in and performs, I'd say.
Yeah, and lastly, to just wrap up this segment on RCB, Hari Prasad goes on to say he's very happy with the acquisitions of Vihan Malhotra and Kanishk Chauhan, and Vicky Otswal to that list as well, right?
Vicky
I think
Otswal,
RCB,
yeah.
yeah, really did well with their homework and actually
Good under
got
19 buys. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, trusting the youth there. And Hari Prasad says, yeah, you read my mind there, Rishabh. So, I think Utsav also goes on to add one more point. Huh? The only correct answer is Tim David. He has been in insane form right from the first game of last IPL. So yeah, hopefully all of this really ends up coming good. But Rishabh, again, just one last thing. I keep saying one last thing because RCB is one team you just cannot discuss enough about because there's just so many things there. RCB is obviously coming in with a massive, massive tag, right, as defending champions. Do you think RCB can sustain, back to back strong seasons? Home advantage will play a massive role, but then do you see them probably replicate last season?
100% I do see them. They'll have to figure out way of winning better at home though, because the home record has been concerning over the years. But they do have, if you compare the teams, they've had always, they have that potential to win at home as well. They have that team, they have those players. And, Mo Bobat also told that we won't be starting as defending champions, but we'll be going in to look to win back-to-back titles. Not a lot of teams have done that. I think with the whole coaching setup, this whole change, there's a really positive outlook, and I think the whole camp will be a lot more relaxed, and that balance, I think, is the best we've seen over the years. So I don't see any reason why they can't go on to defend the title. Definitely should. I mean, even if you keep me aside as an RCB fan. Even if you look on paper, I think they've done well at the auction. They have a good team, and they have a good coaching and support staff as well. So they should be going all the way.
Yeah, and I think here's where all the RCB fans in the chat will proceed to put all the Nazar emojis, touch all possible surfaces that have wood because you would really expect and want RCB to sort of do that. And yeah, Rishabh, let's talk about another team, which is Rajasthan Royals, right? Again, pre-auction, just so much discussion, right, about the possible trades and this and that happening. I mean, it would be foolish on our part if we don't talk about those key trades, some of the key retentions as well. But again, just the kind of squad they have built, some very interesting purchases there. Yeah, Rishabh, your first impressions of Rajasthan Royals, and do you think this could be the season for them?
I think it's a much improved squad than what they had the last time. Firstly, with the trade, a lot of people felt Sanju Samson going out, captain, experienced batter, big dent. But I'd actually say Rajasthan benefited more with Samson going out and Jadeja and Karan coming in, because they didn't have all rounders last season. You only had Manindu Hasaranga there. You didn't have genuine all rounders. Now you have two quality all rounders, and one of them is an Indian spinner. Their spin, Tikshana and Hasaranga, they have only had two overseas spinners. Didn't have Indian spinners there. So Jadeja coming in, massive boost, brings the experience. Uh, and he'll also bring a lot to the leadership. Really, gun fielder, utility. Sam Curran they can use according to conditions as well. Another good all rounder and a good overseas pace option there that they have. And along with that, they've gotten in Ravi Bishnoi as well. So I think really good Indian spin core with Bishnoi and Jadeja that they were lacking last season. So I think that was also really really good buy. I don't think they'll it's not going to be like Sanju Samson going out is going to dent them really, because they've gotten two options which they actually needed to bring balance to their squad, because they have a good batting lineup anyways. And with one opener going out or one top order batter going out, a lot of the traffic jam also gets sorted at the top for Rajasthan, I feel, because they have a lot of guys who can bat in the top 3 4 over there. So for starters, I feel that was they did a good trade, and they've got good options. They've got good buys, I feel, at the auction as well.
Yeah, Rishabh, I mean, all fair points there, because when you sort of put in perspective the kind of season Rajasthan had, they ended up, what, ninth in, a ninth on the table. And clearly they were a team, that needed that sort of a reset. And a lot of fans were upset, that letting go of Sanju Samson is not just letting go of a wicket keeper or a batter, but also your captain, right? I know Riyan Parag did captain for a large chunk in that season. And this time around, too, they've been quite mindful with their retentions. But again, your 2 cents on who could potentially be their captain. I think Ravindra Jadeja is someone they are, sort of looking at in that direction. Heavily rumored too that they could probably opt for him. But if they just were to look inwards, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Riyan Parag, giving him another like second lease of life could be something they can consider.
I don't think they should go for Jadeja as captain. You don't want to burden him with captaincy, because I mean, he's going to be there in that leadership group, the senior player. So I think let him just be at that and use him more better as that gun all rounder that he is. He'll add a lot. Firstly, Rajasthan last season they struggled with their finishing. They lost a lot of games there. So if they have some experience, someone like a Jadeja down there, now they've also gotten in Donovan Ferreira, and you also have Sam Curran. So I feel they've sorted the finishing there, that lower order to some extent. But I feel they should go with Riyan Parag really, because he captained the last season as well. And if he was your captain when your main captain wasn't there, I think you've got to continue with him and give him one more season, put that faith, continue that faith, give him another season. If not, I feel Jaiswal is a decent option. They could also look at to make him the leader and the face of the team. But ideally, if you ask me, I feel it should be Riyan Parag who should at least start as their captain for the 26th season.
Yeah, and I think he also does come in with a lot of captaincy experience too, right? Doing it for Assam in domestic cricket. I know domestic cricket is not the same beast as an IPL franchise, but considering, last season they sort of vested in him the leadership responsibility, it would be fair to see how he fares in a full season, with the entire change and overhaul even in the leadership and the management side of things. And I think there were a few comments that were interesting. Like Hari Prasad goes on to say that more than the trades of Jadeja and Karuna is impressed with the trade of Donovan Ferreira, right? Would be a great backup for Hetmeyer who can sort of blow hot and cold. Rishabh, again, I think you briefly spoke about Donovan Ferreira, the trade aspect, but then do you really think he could, again, sort of replicate some of the heroics that we've seen him do in SA20 onto the IPL as well?
Yeah, I'll agree with this point. They've gotten a good backup, good option with Donovan Ferreira there. If Hetmeyer doesn't come that good, you do have someone who can finish games there down the order. That firepower that they were slightly, lacking, because of which they lost a lot of games that they should have won. So they've made a conscious effort really to cover that. That's been evident there. So yeah, I feel Donovan Ferreira coming in also gives them a lot of strength to that batting lineup, which they really needed.
Yeah, and will be interesting to see how he fares in the rest of the season as well. And Sportsman also goes on to say that RR may look good on paper, but Riyan Parag, Dhruv Jurel aren't consistent in T20s. For Vaibhav Suryavanshi, it will be his second season. Karan Jadeja, you won't know if they will fire or not. Again, not sure if there's a question here, but then probably it just, gives you an undertone that, hey, there are a lot of players who are still, sort of finding form, finding their feet. And the IPL is not the most like kind league in that regard. Like you will be found out if you're out of form for a long time or you're inconsistent in that regard. Do you see these instabilities like sort of playing in for RR a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, teams will be a lot better prepared for Vaibhav Suryavanshi now. Although even after the IPL, he's been in really good form. Wherever he's played, he's consistently scored. But again, the pressure of replicating and having another good season in the IPL, especially for someone of his age, such a youngster who's not even played international cricket or senior level cricket as much, that is going to be a big challenge. That will be a question mark if he can handle that pressure and come good like he did last time again. Definitely. Riyan Parag as well, he had a good season, decent season. I'd say he came good, but he'll have to offer more, definitely. And yeah, they do have a good Indian core that way on paper, but I feel lot will depend on Jaiswal and Suryavanshi at the top again. Parag, Jurel, all of these guys at the top, I'll agree, not as consistent. But again, the point is they have the potential there, so they will have to come good. Now it depends on how all of them really come good. If they can manage to, if they do, they have a good squad. They have a better team than last season. So that will really depend on how their players fare and how well prepared they come in.
Yeah, I think the fortunes for Rajasthan Royals largely, depends on how the score group sort of performs for them. And Utsav also goes on to say that Sam Curran has developed something very interesting called the moon ball, where the ball reaches you at 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. First, he thought it was very gimmicky, but it will be really useful when you look at conditions like the Savai Mansingh Stadium.
Yeah.
A good point there, Utsav. I think Sam Curran is someone who constantly, reinvents and brings in those variations in his bowling repertoire. So I think the IPL would be really, I think, richer because of his variations. And
Yeah,
let's
brings
see
more
how.
variety.
Correct. Yeah, and Cricket Darshan as well, another friend of the podcast, says Mangesh Yadav, as hyped as he is, was in my scout notes while watching the Madhya Pradesh T20 League. He has raw materials to become a very good bowler, but he has big temperament issues and concedes a lot of runs at depth, can bat well. Takes us a little back to the whole RCB conversation, but let's see Cricket Darshan, how it plays out for him. It's going to be a very different pedigree, right? Playing in the IPL. But again, Rishabh, just taking our conversation back to Rajasthan Royals, we've discussed that, they had quite the interesting auction. Some of their purchases too, right, are relatively unknown names. Like Vignesh Puttur is someone we've seen, in the previous season of the IPL, but others like Aman Rao, you have Brijesh Sharma, Sushant Mishra,
Yes,
Ravi
Raj.
Singh. Exactly, Yashraj, and all of these players too, right? Again, names we're not very familiar with unless you follow domestic cricket that closely. So again, did you think this was like a step in the right direction, targeted by, sort of balance out that batting and bowling unit?
Yeah, I think pretty much because, like I told you, they needed an Indian spinner and Indian wrist spinner. They got Jadeja before the auctions, but they needed that wrist spinner because Hasranga, Tikshana, both overseas spinners didn't do as much last season. They've gotten in Ravi Bishnoi. I know he didn't have a great season last year. He's also short of form, but then the potential is there, and with the limited options that you have in the mini auction, I think Bishnoi was a good purchase, good buy for them. They've done well to cover that. They've got Adam Mill as well as a fast bowling option because Archer, again, we know can be injury prone. If he's at his best, very good, but he's also injury prone, so there's always that uncertainty with him. So they've tried to cover for him as well. So in those aspects, that done well. Might see either of Vignesh Puthur or Yashraj Punya as well, getting an opportunity because they will need those spin options. So they've done decently well there overall. Maybe slightly if they could have looked for more. all rounders. I know Sam Curran's there in their squad, but you will have to really, given the composition of their team, uh, they'll either have to go with Sam Curran, or if you want that batting firepower, you have to go with Ferreira there. So they'll have to make a choice between the two. I don't think they can play the both of them there. So if Curran doesn't play, then again that all-rounder spot is a slight concern. But otherwise, they've done fairly well to build on where they were lacking. A lot of places which they were lacking from the previous season.
Yeah, and I think even in our comment section, Hari Prasad being a little circumspect about their bowling side of things, he goes on to say they still things, they haven't completely replaced Vanendu Hasaranga and Mahesh Deekshana properly. Bishnoi has been their only replacement on that front. The spin attack is a slight question and can be slightly concerning in that regard. And even the point about Yashraj Punya, like he was a good bowler in the Maharaja T20 League. He's a quality pick. Very rare to see an Indian leggy who extracts bounce really well. Unfair to not include him in the Syed
Yeah, why
Mushtaq
is he
Ali
not
Trophy.
playing for Karnataka? Yeah.
Exactly. So hopefully this IPL, proves to be that sort of exposure or a learning experience for him, and he gets opportunities to sort of showcase what he's made of. Hari Prasad also goes on to say, would like to see if RR can play. I hope
Luhan
I'm
de
getting the pronunciation.
Pretorius.
Luandre Pretorius somehow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rishabh, again, your 2 cents on this man. Like, do you think he could get an opportunity?
So the only problem with him is he also opens. So you already have Jaiswal there at the top, and you have Vaibhav Suryavanshi. That's a fixed opening pair, so I don't think they're going to really tinker much with that. So I don't know how Luhan will fit in. Again, that's the only concern, because you can't play him at 3-4. Probably you can play him at number three. I think is that what they should look at, because the top two are fixed. I don't see any changes there. But if Luhan has to play, I think number three is the only spot where they'll have to look to fit him. Then you get Parag at four. Maybe you get Jurel at five. Uh, Hetmeyer or Ferreira, whoever at six. Then Jadeja comes in, or however. But yeah, I think if they have to play him, number three is going to be the position that they'll have to fit him.
Yeah, and I think Sportsman here goes on to say he only fits in if you don't play Hetmeyer. So I think that's going to be
Yeah,
a
either
problem
of
there.
Hetmeyer or Ferreira, any one of those, and then Luhan comes in. You can't have all three of them playing in the 11.
Yeah, the pecking order seems quite clear, I think, in that regard. And one last question, Rishabh, before we move on to our last three teams under focus. Rajasthan Royals obviously had a very forgettable last season, but this time around, do you think the areas that they've worked on, they have enough depth to sort of push for a playoff finish?
Not quite sure if they can make it to the top four, because spin bowling is again a little concerned. Jadeja is there, but if you look at Jadeja's last 2-3 years, the wicket taking ability hasn't been as much as it used to. You need someone to get you those wickets in the middle overs there. Ravi Bishnoi, again, we are not certain, because he's not done well last season. A lot will depend on his form, if he comes good or not. So there are some concerns there. You do have Archer. If Archer is fit and he fires for them, well and good. If not, you have Adam Milne, Sam Curran. So I don't know how that will also work out there. The batting has gotten a lot better with Ferreira, Luhan, Jadeja, all of these guys coming in. Certainly, I think they can do better than they did last season, but I'm not sure if they can make it to the top four still.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, considering the kind of finish they had last time around, the purchases that they went in with this time around. Again, not being disrespectful to them, but then it would be quite an uphill task, see if they can pull off something special in that regard. And talking about another team which had, again, a very, I would say, depressing season, considering the way they were performing in 2024, has to be Sunrisers Hyderabad, right? Now, when you look at SRH2, the kind of strategy that they sort of had pre-auction was to hold on to their core players. You had the likes of Pat Cummins, Abhishek Sharma, Heinrich Klaassen, to name a few who they sort of absolutely wanted to retain at any cost. But even just looking at some of the purchases that they had in the auctions, right? Usually, when you think of Sunrisers, you'd think of them as a team that would really go big after players they want, right? But very smart purchases in that regard. In fact, I think their most expensive player itself was just, I think, Salul Arora at 1.5 CR, which goes to show that they were very mindful that they have the right kind of resource. They just wanted like certain backups. Oh yeah, sorry. Of course, I forgot Liam Livingston at 13 CR, but you can still see, right, that there was some like intent and direction with those purchases in the squad construction.
I'm not quite sure if Liam Livingston was really needed for SRH, honestly, because you already have Abhishek, you have Head, you have Ishan Kishan, you have Klassen, you have enough firepower there in the batting. If something that they really needed to strengthen, it was their death bowling. You their power play bowling. Sorry, you have Jaydev Unadkat, you have Arshal Patel. All of these guys can do well in the middle or at the death. At least if you look at their quality wise, but I still don't see who is going to get them those wickets in the power play apart from Pat Cummins. Uh, they let go Shami as well. Although he wasn't fit, he didn't play a lot of games. But I don't see who's their attacking power play bowler, overseas or pacer apart from Cummins. So I think they could have really gone and gotten some overseas pacer instead of splurging on Livingston, because they already have enough batting firepower. So I didn't understand that move a lot really, because they haven't addressed their actual concerns. I feel even with their spin, Zishan Ansari is still probably their only spinner, and then you have Harsh Dubey there. Did well in domestic, but again, would like to have another experienced name there. They let go Rahul Char, they let go Adam Zampa, so you don't have enough in the spin as well. I feel with SRH there, you either play Cranes, Fuletra, or Harsh Dubey, but all of these are guys who haven't played much, are not proven yet in the IPL. So I don't know if you can rely on them straight away. So I feel, I really feel they've only looked to load more to their batting and try to outbat teams, which they did last season, and it only works when it comes, but it doesn't work always. I don't think that's going to win you tournaments really. So little disappointed with SRH. I don't think they've covered their I don't think they've addressed their concerns well enough. Don't think Livingston was needed there. You needed more for the fast bowling really, particularly power play pacers, and you needed more in the spin. The bowling is still looking weak and really concerning for me for SRH.
No, all fair points there, Rishabh, but I think our comment section also seems to agree with you there. Let's take Hari Prasad's comment first. He says, very disappointed with SRS. The
Yeah,
Liam Livingston buy made absolutely no sense, and they haven't really done anything to replace Zampa. They still have players in Fuletra. You have Ansari, Dubey,
exactly
but
what I
uh,
said. Yeah,
yeah, there's still unproven commodities at this level, which is definitely a fair point. Sports fan goes on to say SRH are just, like batting heavy. I think betting heavy on scoring, 250 every time. Bowling resources look really thin. Cricket that Ashan, I think, goes on to say it was an amazing auction by SRH, except, the Liam Livingston purchase. Salman is very similar to Karthik, and they got him at 90L. They should have eyed Duffy and, that sort of a pacer.
yeah,
That should have at least been the direction that they wanted to go at. And I think Utsav also had a comment on Liam Livingston. He again goes on to say Liam Livingston wasn't needed, and neither was Salil, right? If they wanted these two batting additions, they could have released Smaran.
yeah.
And it feels really bad to see him bomb the bench when he's going through such form, right, in domestic cricket. And I think one last point that Cricket Darshan says is SRS do have great scouts, and I'm quite excited to see the kind of talents they have punted on. They got Aniket from the Madhya Pradesh T20, league last season. So again, there's no doubt about their scouting, but then clearly, some of the purchases did raise a lot of eyebrows. But again, Rishabh, if you were to look at a potential game changer or again an X factor for SRH, which is quite batting heavy and not as much as you'd want on the bowling reserve side of things, what would that look like for you?
I think it will be someone from there, has to be someone from the retained players as well. Ishan Kishan has been in really fabulous form in the SM80. He did really well, led Jharkhand to victory as well. He started the VHT also with a fantastic century today. So if he can be that person, that batter at number three who can carry the momentum after Abhishek and head, give you that solid start, and they can just go bang, bang, bang. They can bat teams out, which is what they'll have to do because the bowling is concerning for them. Uh, Bowling is weak, so that is one name. I would really want to see more from Nitish Kumar Reddy. He'll have to contribute in both aspects because somewhere that experience is lacking in the team, and you need someone who can carry the batting. In the middle, you have so all of these guys can fire. They'll either score 250, 300, or they'll get bundled out for 100. That's how it's going to be with this kind of batting. You need someone who can hold in between, and Nitish Kumar Reddy has to play that role. And they'll need a lot more from him with the ball, particularly because they don't have enough, I still feel, in the bowling. So if NKR can come good in both aspects, he can probably bring in some balance to the side. So there'll be a lot of expectation from him, and he'll have to deliver.
Yeah, and talking about SRH, they obviously have so many talents that, it's unfortunate that we'd see them warm the bench. Because I think Hari Prasad goes on to say that Jack Edwards to the list too, a very talented player who sadly does not find a place in the playing 12. I mean, this is take into account the impact player rule and all of that. And he goes on to say that Smaran would be another player to watch out for, I mean, if
So
he gets
this is
opportunities.
the this is the thing I said, right? Even with guys like Jack Edwards and Livingston and all of these guys, you already have enough in the batting. Where are you going to fit these guys? Is the question. So they've not addressed what they really had to. You have gotten in more players who I don't think will even fit in the 11. So I don't see a point there really. But yeah, man, Smaran's been doing really well for in domestic. But again, the kind of batting and combination they already have, I don't see how they'll fit him in the 11 again. So they've got a lot of things to figure out with their combination.
Yeah, and I think just on the Jack Edwards point itself, Cricket Darshan goes on to say that Jack Edwards is a tomorrow's player than today's, despite the potential. Also, if you trust on him now, we've seen many BBL performers flop in the IPL. So it was a massive punt that SRH took, and only time will tell if it was the right kind of move for them. But again, Rishabh, before we move on to our last two teams under focus, realistically, where do you see SRH finishing right in the standings? Because 2024 was a dream season for them, right? They literally out batted the opposition. They tried to replicate that in 2025, but didn't really work out as well for them. Had a very middling season, finished, right in the middle of that table too. But this time around, do you see a change in fortunes, perhaps?
I'm not sure if I see a change in fortunes. It's probably going to be the same for them because if they can consistently outbat teams, it will work well for them. They can probably go higher. But if that doesn't happen, then I don't think they have a strong enough bowling or a balanced enough bowling attack. So top four, I'm really not sure. But yeah, it's again really dicey with SRH. I feel they could have done a lot better at the auction.
Yeah, fair point there. And at least for the SRH fans who are still sticking around, for your sake, we will hope that, SRH can probably pull off those heroics from 2024. But last two teams under focus, Rishabh. I know this has been a marathon stream, where we've discussed all teams, but it brings us to our last two, which is Gujarat Titans and Lucknow Super Giants. I think I pretty much broke the whole going alphabetical order wise because how is Gujarat Titans coming in so much later? But let's talk about Gujarat Titans, right? I mean, they kept a settled core, didn't spend, wildly at the auction. So, how would you again judge the stability of that squad post the auction as well? A lot hinges, on the fortunes of their skipper Shubman Gill, who unfortunately finds himself out of the T20 squad for. The World Cup that's happening later. But then, all in all, yeah, let's talk about Gujarat Titans for now.
I think again a lot will depend on their top three, top four, and they've looked to trust that as well because they did well last season, the top three, four, and if they can continue to do well, there's no a lot of the players down won't get much opportunities. I feel that is what they still believe, and they've backed that theory. But I feel Jason Holder was a good buy, good all round buy. I feel with Scherf and Rutherford being traded off, they needed someone who can add to the batting down there, and also with the ball. I feel yes, you do have KG there, but Holder can add the ball. Lots of experience. He's been playing for Abu Dhabi Knight Riders as well. He's playing there as well, and he's picking wickets there. So I think that is one thing. They've gotten Tom Batten, Luke Wood. They've gotten all of these guys, which are I feel decent replacements there. But I pretty much feel their 11 is going to be lot same as the last time. Gill, Sudarshan, Butler, Sundar at number 4 this time. I feel will have a very important role there because you have those top three, but after that you need some stability. He's been promoted in the batting. I feel he will be promoted there. He's been up in the Indian team as well. So will be interesting to see what Sundar brings. More responsibility on him. I feel particularly more as a batter than as a bowler there, I'll say. Uh, I'd like to see how they use Glenn Phillips. Didn't use much of him in the last season, so I think between him and Holder, they'll have to fit in someone at 6, 7 there probably. And then they have their spinners Rashid Khan, Sai Kishore, you have Sundar as well. So that way, I don't think they also had a lot to do. You have Prasid, you have Siraj, you have your Indian core settled pretty much there. They've got in Jason Holder, uh, one of few replacements that they needed. They've backed their batting. They've backed those top 3, 4. They haven't looked to change or bring in much. So I feel they're sticking to that, and if that can come good. They did make the playoffs last year, so it's not like it's a bad team. They haven't looked to change much, so that's fine. So I feel GT, yeah, very not like they had much to do. I feel, and they've bagged pretty much the same side. Not a lot of buys also that they made, so they feel they're pretty sorted that way. So I feel if if they can replicate the season that they had last year, they can also be among the teams who can make it to the top 4.
Yeah, because we have some very interesting perspectives coming up in our comment section as well. Cricket Darshan goes on to say, I don't know, GT haven't got their middle order sorted too much. Jason Holder had a good CPL with the bat as well, but they clearly didn't need pacers. His batting in the IPL is something I don't rate, and Tom Banton isn't that great. Okay, we see where you're coming from. When Hari Prasad
Yeah,
goes on to say
so
that, sorry, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. They've looked to back their top 3, top 4, and I think they believe in that theory that they won't need much batting down the other if these guys can come good and play a majority of the overs like they did last time. But if that doesn't happen, then like I said, the middle order, you have Shah Rukh Khan, you have Holder, you have Tewatia, but all of these guys, I don't know if you can rely as much in the middle order. So I will agree with that. They've backed their top order, and now they will have to come good because they don't have any other choice there. So probably could have gone for better options in the middle there, but they've looked to back the core. They've shown faith in that core, so now they will have to. Sorry, guys like Shah Rukh Khan, Rahul Tewatia, all of these guys will have to deliver in the middle.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an uphill task again to, sort of expect them to deliver. And even Hari Prasad goes on to say that I just don't get the Jason Holder acquisition. Not sure how he would fit in with, Joss Butler. You have KG Rabada, even Rashid Khan being fixed. He can't be playing at Sherfain's position. Glenn Phillips is someone he's looking as a starter. Now, again, considering they've, gone all out for Jason Holder at 7 CR, Rishabh, how does this play out for them, right? You just have 4 overseas slots, and yeah, like it's again a problem that they're going to have to contend with.
Yeah, because Holder's batting, I don't know if we can rely much on that, like it was mentioned before. And they don't need much in the fast bowling. You have Rabada if he's fully fit. you have Prasid, you have Siraj, you have your three pacers sorted there, you have your spinners. So yeah, that does make sense. I don't know where they're going to fit Holder because they've gone all out for him. And I do believe with Sherfin gone, they need some firepower at the back end in the batting because they are top heavy GT. So if you look in that sense, Glenn Phillips has to definitely start. Certainly a better, way better batter over Holder. 100%. There's no doubt there. So they have to start with Phillips, but seeing how they've gone all out for Holder, like you said, I really don't know whom they're going to start with. That one position is going to be slightly dicey, and they'll have to figure who they want there because they didn't use much of Phillips the last season as well. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, and I think we continue to get comments here which say that Glenn Phillips is their only player there. Tom Banton is not a middle order bat at all, despite him playing in the middle order for different leagues as well. And we also have a question which says thoughts on Shah Rukh Khan. Not many notable IPL performances. He was dropped by Tamil Nadu in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy after averaging just 4.5 in 4 games. He still manages to get retained over Mohammad Shami. Clearly, he has casted a spell, over the management to continue getting that sort of backing. And his performances in IPL too have been quite lackluster. So, Rishabh, again, is this going to be the season for Shah Rukh Khan, maybe?
I mean, it has to be. If he doesn't perform this season, I don't see him being retained or taken by any other team in the next season because his stocks have really gone down. He was a big thing when he came in, actually, when he was playing with Punjab, those starting initial seasons. But yeah, he's really gone down. He's not playing for Tamil Nadu as well. So this has to be the season for him. If he doesn't, then I definitely see him being dropped and maybe not being picked also in the coming seasons if he doesn't do well. And GT will also need guys like him and even Rahul Tewatia, not just him. They'll need both of them to do well in the middle because you can't be completely relying on your top three, top four all the time like you did last season. You never know when you will need these guys to deliver in the middle. So both of them going to be a very important season for these two. I feel Shahrukh and Tewatia both.
Yeah, fair point there. And Sportsman also goes on to say, I would be keen to watch Boshi these couple of months as not only GT, but the Indian team is also punting in him, right, in this format. So it'll be a good exhibition for him to, sort of reiterate that faith that the management has been investing in him. Also, Utsav goes on to say, also they were massively top heavy with, Gill and Sai out of form, Sherfain traded, Tevatia injured for a long time. They might fall really hard, which is probably, an early prediction there. Rahul Tevatia also has played one game since last IPL. It was today. He added, just one run against
Yeah,
Railways.
so this is what we did talk about, right? If they're batting, they've trusted a lot on their top order again. But if that doesn't come good, obvious concerns, 4, 5, 6, uh, not so reliable or looking thin because guys like Shahrukh, Tewatia haven't been in form, haven't performed well for quite some time now. So that is going to be a big concern. If their top 3, 4 don't come good, then that's a real shortcoming that I don't know how they're going to address.
Yeah, and even just talking about the Shah Rukh Khan point, Cricketer Tashan says, I believe SRK at 4 is an option. GT tried and it worked in a few games. But the moment, they push him further down, he's not that kind of a batter. If he plays 4, he can do well. But again, this is just an opinion that Cricketer Tashan has mentioned. Also goes on to say that he has improved his spin game when he played in 2024 with GT. So the continued faith probably shows, they expect him to come good, albeit, a good batting position that could work. And one last thing, I think, before we move on to our last team, Hari Prasad goes on to say, need Sai Kishore to complement Rashid well next season. Did pick up wickets, but the economy rate has been quite disastrous in that regard, which is again a fair point there. But Rishabh, as much as like GT is looking like a team that has some chinks in their armor, somewhere do you think being a little more consistent can probably take them deeper this season under Shubman Gill, the captain, who would probably be walking out with a point to prove on his own?
Yeah, I mean, Gill did well the last season also in the IPL. He was their leading run scorer, I think. No, second after Sai Sudarshan, but he did well in the IPL. But then he will be coming into the IPL on the back of poor T20I form, vice captaincy taken. He's been dropped from the World Cup squad as well. A lot happening, so he will want to prove himself again as far as this format is concerned. So that fire will be there. That will work well for GT. But I again believe if the top order doesn't consistently come good, then they're going to have issues with the batting in their middle and finishing. So if that doesn't work, then they'll have issues. They'll have problems making it to the top four as well. They did last season because Prasid, Siraj, both of them did well with the ball. Rashid will have to come good a lot better this time. But their top three consistently scored. So if those guys don't, then it will be interesting to see what happens to them and how the other guys step up. So uh, not quite reassuring, I'd say, if we look that way. Uh, that if those players don't perform consistently like they did last season, then I don't think they will make the top four because on that back itself they made the top four last season.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those seasons where GT will really have to, push above their weight to actually, surprise their oppositions and possibly end up on the right side of the result. And yeah, folks, that sort of brings us to our last team under focus, which is the Lucknow Super Giants, LSG, right? Again, when you sort of look at their auction strategy, they retain most of their key players, no surprises there. But Rishabh, again, with the kind of purchases that they had at the auction, right? You had the likes of Vanindu Hasaranga, Andrik Nokia, Mukul Chowdhury, Naman Tiwari, Akshat Raghuvanshi, a point someone had brought up in our chat box earlier, and Josh Inglis as well. How do you think LSG is shaping up and looking much stronger than last time around?
With LSG, if you look on paper, they look very strong. They've gotten in Shami. You have Mayank Yadav there. You also have, Avesh Khan, Mohsin Khan, all of these guys. But again, the problem with LSG is the injury concerns. All of their Indian pacers here are all of them are injury prone. So if they aren't fit, then they're going to lack heavily in their fast bowling, which they did last season as well. So it's the same concern I see for them again. I don't see how they've improved there. Yes, they have gotten in Shami. I think the conditions and Lucknow will suit him a lot better as well. But that will all depend on his fitness, really. And if all of these guys, Mayank Yadav, Avesh Khan, Shami, all of these guys are fit, then it's a really good fast bowling attack. Uh, but I also didn't understand 8.6 CR for Josh Inglis, knowing that he's going to play only 4 games. I don't know. Okay, you might say that that's a future investment. We'll have him for 4 games now, but we want him later on, which might be the analogy there. I don't know, but immediately 8.6 CR on him playing just 4 games next season. Didn't understand that buy. Probably they could have looked to add more with that money where they actually needed some options than looking, because see, you already have Nikki B, you already have Makram, and you have Marsh, three of them who are going to play your four overseas, and then you will play Vanindu Hasaranga because you need that overseas wrist spinner along with Digvesh Rati. You need that spinner there, can also bat a bit little. So Hasaranga will probably start for them. So where does English play? Even in the 4 games he's available, where will he slot in that 11? So if he's just going to be on the bench, 8.6 CR for nothing doesn't make sense to me combination wise. But they've done well to get in Hasranga and Norkia at base price. Again, Norkia is someone who's had fitness and injury concerns, so it'll all depend on how fit he actually is. So, largely with their pace attack, this is the only problem with whoever they've gotten in. All of them are largely injury prone. So, if all of them can be fit, then a very potent attack. But otherwise, you might see them struggling similarly like last season. So I feel LSG also could have probably done better at the auction.
Yeah, fair point there. But I think one, sort of purchase that we can sort of agree was a good one is that of Akshat Raghuvanshi. Cricket that Darshan earlier in our conversation spoke about how he was the best player in, scout notes for during the MP T20 league. And he's just 21, but he's a top T20 bat from whatever Cricket that Darshan saw of him. Pretty attacking top three batters, scored 100 as well. I think I would sort of expect him to come good and sort of deliver, right? Because even looking at the other purchases that LSG did with the likes of Mukul Chowdhury and Naman Tiwari, with Mukul they went up to 2.6 crores. Naman Tiwari, with 1 crore. Akshat Raghuvanshi himself was for 2.2 cr. You could see, right, that they are sort of investing in youth, and hopefully it comes good for them. Yeah, I think let's take this comment from Hari Prasad. He says there's a lot of pressure on Digvesh to continue his form from the last IPL. They replaced Bishnoi with a foreign player in, Wanindu Hasranga, who was blown hot and cold in the IPL. The spin attack looks very, very thin, right? Yeah, Rishabh, talk to us about Digvesh Rathi, right? Had a very, I'd say, like fiery last season, and his
Yeah,
antics in franchise cricket has continued to show that. But do we expect something similar from him this time around in the IPL?
yeah. I mean, the pressure on him will be to replicate that performance and do better. With Bishnoi gone now, they only have M Siddharth as the other Indian spinner there in that squad, I think. So he's going to be their frontline Indian spinner, with Bishnoi also not being there. And Hasaranga didn't have a great last season, really. You can tell on paper that he's a very good buy, but his form in the IPL last 1 2 seasons hasn't been that great. So a lot of pressure definitely on Digvesh. And if he, I think he was that one X factor that they had in their bowling the last season. But I think even teams will be a lot more better prepared now because they've seen more of him as compared to last season. So the pressure will be on him to add more to his game. And if he cannot do that, or if he fails to replicate, then it just adds to their bowling woes. I feel that GT have,
Yeah, and I think
LSG have.
Hari.
Sorry.
So yeah, LSG. Hari also goes on to add that Shabaz, Manimaran, Siddharth, and Badoni
Yeah,
to an extent aren't your best wicket taking
best
options. So
wicket taking
probably,
options.
yeah, a little bit of rethink in that regard could have helped them pre-auctions. Utsav also goes on to say that LSG have good spinners and good pacers, but I feel Mitch Marsh is very inconsistent. Pant is facing price tag pressure, visibly unhappy with the management. Also, Puran's current form is concerning. So a lot of factors in the back end also playing like this. But come the IPL, they will hope things fall in
But
place for them.
then these are the guys they will have to back anyway, because what other options do they have? And they've done well for you last season. So Marsh, Pant, Puran, you'll have to back these guys, because if not them, then who else is really going to? Who else if not these guys? You'll have to back them.
Yeah, that's true. And Sportsman also goes on to say that there's more pressure, on the skipper Rishabh Pant. He doesn't even know where to bat in this lineup. They already have a solid top three where he sort of can't fit in. Rishabh, your final word on where Rishabh Pant sort of fits in this scheme of things, and hopefully he can bring in that last fag end form onto this IPL too.
I think Pant will have to bat at number four. There's no other position. You wouldn't want him 5 6 that down the order. That's not even his position. And I think Marsh, Makram, and Puran is your fixed top three. So number four is the only slot where Pant can bat. So we did see that spark in the last game against RCB. He'll have to carry that, and he'll have to tweak his game a bit to bat at that position at four. uh, Particularly in T20s, he's not had as much success even with India. If you look, he was actually perceived as someone in the T20 format, but over time he's gone on to do well in Test, and his T20 games gone down. That's why he's not even in the Indian team. So he'll have to rework, reinvent a lot, and he'll have to make that mindset to bat at number four. That's the only position where he's going to be able to bat in this team. So that's very clear. I think that can also be an advantage, because at least you have a clarity, or you're very clear that you will be batting at this position itself. So then you prep accordingly and you try to mold your game accordingly. So that's what Pant will have to do.
Yeah, I think for LSG this season will be a lot about optimizing their resources. I think Utsav also goes on to say that Bishnoi was anyways dropped last season. Only silver lining is that Manindu Hasranga had a purple cap contention season with RCB way back in 2022, and this Ekana wicket might really suit him. And Hari Prasad also goes on to sort of hope that Bharat Arun gets the best out of the Pacers. All the sentiment ends with hoping and them potentially realizing their potential. But Rishabh, yeah, almost as we reach the end of our discussion, like realistically, do you see LSG, qualify for the playoffs? Is it going to be another very forgettable season for them? And yeah, how do you see it play out?
Very dicey with LSG, it really depends on the fitness of their fast bowlers. They do have a decent batting, they do have firepower, decent firepower in their batting. But if their fast bowlers can remain fit and deliver, Avesh, Mohsin, Mayank, even Shami, all of these guys, it really depend on that. If they can be fit, they can deliver, then they have a good bowling lineup on paper. Then probably they have a good balance and they can do a lot better than they did last season. But that that all of it will depend on how fit they are and if they can stay away from injury and play the whole season. Then they have a chance, really. But if that fitness concern is still there and they don't show up as well, then it's not really promising with LSG. So I think it's very dicey. A lot of if and but with them. If if their pacers are fit, if they're not fit, even a Bharat Arun can't do anything, honestly. So that is the primary factor. That's the truth of the matter. They will have to be. It will all depend on their fitness. If not, then again the bowling looks weak, and they might struggle like they did last season. So because there is uncertainty, I'm not quite sure at this point in time they're contenders to make the top four.
Yeah, fair point there. I think LSG will really have to play out of their skin and pull off something magical to make it to the playoffs. Yeah, I mean we've discussed all the 10 teams quite comprehensively. We have had some amazing comments also come through, which really added so much value to our discussion. But Rishabh, I'll only leave you after taking a quick set of predictions from you, right? Like we've again like just dissected all the teams in entirety, right? We've spoken about squad balance, X factors, bench strength, and everything. So I think I'll just ask you three questions. Like, who do you think is going to be the winner of IPL 2026 if you had to make an early prediction? And yeah, let's probably also get your thoughts on the top four, right? Like, again, who do you think would sort of make the cut for the top four?
I think MI will make the top four. RCB. I think KKR, if they can get that bowling combination, they'll have a solid bowling attack. Fizz, and if they can play both of them, Pathirana with Narayan and Chakravarti, brilliant. So them, the fourth team probably someone from DC or PBKS, either from either two of them maybe. So at this moment, from on paper and from last season at least, probably these four: MI, RCB, KKR, and DC or Punjab.
And Rishabh, again, your winner for this season. I know it's too early to make this prediction. Playoffs can really play in very interesting ways, but if you had to make an early choice,
I'd say either MI or RCB defend their title, or MI get a sixth. Either these two, maybe.
wow, I was really hoping you'd go in for a new winner in Punjab or DC, but then the RCB fan in me is very happy. I think Utsav has his predictions logged in too, which is quite similar to yours, Rishabh. It says RCB,
Yeah,
MI, DC, and KKR. He's also gone on to make a bottom three prediction, which is, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Well, yeah, folks, I think that pretty much does conclude our marathon to our live stream where we have really done our research and spoken about all teams to the best of our abilities. For all of you who stuck around for this long, thank you so much. I'm again reiterating the fact that your comments really enhance this discussion. We will be looking forward to doing a lot more of this during IPL, probably pre IPL or whatever. The plan is that. Thank you so much, Rishabh, for actually dedicating time for this live stream. I know you were excited, when the IPL auction happened itself, and we finally, made time to do this, and it really meant the world, that we could really put all the teams in perspective. yeah, to all the viewers who are catching this later and have stuck around again till here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow Rishabh on Instagram and Twitter, where he posts a lot of fun things about not just his personal life, but obviously, work related stuff too. And follow him on his Sportskeeda handle, where he writes a lot of amazing stuff. But yeah, that's all, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and cheers. Good night.